I want to say thank you for taking the time to check out jamestrainingsystems.com, and I'm excited for what the future holds as we take steps forward to making this profession better. In this video, we are going to discuss some of the main issues with how we determine our value as professionals and why we need a paradigm shift within our profession. We also will go over the basic processes and procedures I have utilized to create highly effective training systems for some of the top organizations in the United States simply by asking the right questions. Now let's get started. Hypothetically, say we have two coaches. They both look, sound, and coach identically. When it comes to staffing, facilities, and budgets, they have identical resources. They come from the same background, and all things are equal between the two coaches. However, one coach does not believe in the use of Olympic lifting for the development of athletes, and the other coach does. They both run their programs with high degrees of success, and come testing week, both coaches' athletes improve. Each coach looks at the results and proclaims their program's success comes from their stance on Olympic lifting. However, if you compare the results side by side, the differences in the degree of change and improvement would be marginal at best. Now we have a problem. Which coach is right? Each coach has valid points to back their claims, but refuse to see things any other way and publicly disagree and bicker about whose method is best. How do we determine who is right and who is wrong? More importantly, does their public disagreement help or hurt their profession? Both coaches did their jobs, both coaches saw results, both coaches made an impact on their athletes, yet neither could get past their differences. Does this sound familiar? This same situation happens every single day within our profession. Shouldn't we focus on what unites us as a profession instead of placing our value in what small percentage is different? I believe we have a misplaced value system, which is why we can struggle to determine how we should be evaluated, often leading to good coaches competing with each other for no discernible reason. I have to ask, should we believe our value is in our program's results? My answer is no, and here's why. Placing our value in our program's results is the equivalent of saying the value of a $100,000 car is in the ability of the car's engine to start. You should expect an expensive car to start, and those we work with should expect for our program to deliver results. We need to stop selling ourselves over what is expected of us and start selling the outcomes our service provides. People pay $100,000 for a car because they believe it will change their lives and take them to places they've never been before. We equally need to be able to communicate and demonstrate our outcomes that our services provide to those we work with. If we cannot communicate how we deliver outcomes without sending people articles, videos, or using paragraphs to describe what it is we actually do, we have a problem, and we are in need of a paradigm shift. Strictly associating our value with our programs creates a massive problem. Programming is one of the entry-level requirements of our careers. Programs are also one of the easiest things to duplicate, and programs are the most argued component when it comes to determining quality within our profession. If our entire value system is built around one of the lowest barriers to entry of our profession, why should coaches complain when people do not understand our real value as professionals? To me, this idea is insane. We do more than just make athletes bigger, stronger, and faster, and you are more valuable than the program you write. But do the people you work with understand your real value? Why do you feel people still take a program from a winning team, give it to their team, and then believe that their team will automatically become a winning team? In their mind, they believe they are doing what is best for their team, yet we struggle and fight to this day to convince them otherwise. Can we really blame them for being misinformed? Whose fault is it really? We can barely agree with ourselves. Anyone can find a program, and if we are going to take the next step, we need to shift the paradigm. This is why I believe our value as professionals is not in our programs. Our value as professionals is in how we run our system. Our real value comes in our ability to execute our system, provide a service, and deliver desirable outcomes. Your program is a part of that, but it's not everything. Our true value comes in our ability to change people's lives, and we need to understand that. Instead of trying to sell the features of our program, would we be better served to discover the real outcomes desired by those we are working with? Once we understand what it is people are actually looking for, Then we can shape and frame how our system will deliver exactly what it is they need and want. Would administrators start to invest in our department? Would sport coaches start to get it? And would athletes start to buy in if we were able to communicate, demonstrate, and we were able to evaluate exactly how our services and our training system could change everything? People might start to understand our true value if they saw the systems we developed and how those systems created desirable outcomes for them. Early in my career, I found myself extremely frustrated, and I felt like I wasn't appropriately prepared for the profession I dreamed of getting into. The certification exams that I took were based primarily on anatomical, physiological, and biomechanical science. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but there's no wonder why I felt like I was entitled to have a job as soon as I passed my exam, because I was taught the only thing I needed to know was how the body functioned, and I would be qualified for a full-time position. When I found out that this was not the case, I was pissed. Why are we educated to just focus on the physical aspects of science only to find out the truth and then be belittled in our first experience for not being a better coach? Don't you think it would be important to introduce the sciences required to work with the human aspects of the job? The most challenging parts of being a coach is working with people, not programming principles. Why are we not required to be certified in every aspect of our profession? Motivational, goal setting, and organizational theories are vital components to connecting with those you work with. Why is it that we are forced to learn on the fly how psychological, behavioral, and social science play major roles in our effectiveness as a coach? By focusing only on the physical aspects, are we missing out on what really matters? In my experience, the answer to that is yes. The most important part of science I learned in my career came not in my preparation for my certification, but in my 6th grade science class. This component of science has been the driving force of every training system I have ever created. The funny thing is, it's also the most basic concept of science, the scientific method. The scientific method requires you to make observations about your unique situation, think of questions, formulate a hypothesis, develop testable predictions, and gather data to test those predictions. If the experiment does not work, refine, alter, expand, or reject the hypothesis used to create the experiment. Or if it did work, develop a general theory about how your hypothesis will deliver desirable outcomes. Then when you're done, start the process over, also known as creating a training system. Just because the scientific method is simple does not mean it is easy to implement, as the scientific method requires trial and error until you get things right. When you start this process, you will have to put 100% effort just to get the system to budge. But after a while, you'll be able to get the system moving, and over time, once you have enough general theories, the system starts to work for you. This is all good on paper and on the screen, but how does the scientific method impact your situation today? Theories describe why things happen. Laws describe what happens. When those two circles intersect, that's when you gain the ability to predict how your methods will impact your situation. It's time you develop this power of prediction. By making observations and thinking of the right questions, you will be able to develop your process and procedures. You need to know what you do, how you do it, and why you do it. If you can find these answers, you will find the purpose behind your process. By formulating a hypothesis and developing testable predictions, you will be able to create your program development system, clearly defining what product your program produces and how you will progress that product. By gathering data to test predictions, you will be able to create a performance evaluation system that will help you decide what your standards are and why those standards are important to those you work with and work for. By developing these 3 components of your system, you will clearly be able to communicate, demonstrate, and finally evaluate your real value. Your value comes within the power to predict exactly how you will deliver desirable outcomes. Imagine having the ability to state with confidence what you expect to happen. What will life be like when you can project into the future? What results and outcomes will be delivered when the right pieces are in place? When things go wrong, you will know exactly where the breakdown occurred, and you can create a system of accountability to fix those issues. Sounds great, right? Prediction is the superpower of a professional. Just having a system is great, but knowing how to create a highly effective system that is universal to any situation is invaluable. So let's take a look and see how this is possible. What has guided and shaped my ability to organize, produce, progress, and then execute the delivery of training systems for some of the top organizations in the country comes from what I call process planning. Process planning is a framework of 8 procedures I have utilized and implemented over the last 6 years to be able to systematically and deliberately deliver desirable outcomes. The process planning framework has completely changed the way I go about my day-to-day job. I've worked for years to constantly evolve these concepts so they would be universal regardless of your situation. How do I know it's universal? I won't just tell you, I'll show you. Back in 2013, I was the Director of Athletic Sales for Play Performance Flooring. During this period of time, I made 104 visits to over 80 organizations all across the United States in just 9 months. At the time, I was reading The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Dr. Stephen R. Covey, and in this book, Dr. Covey describes the natural laws involved with farming. Without these natural laws, there would be nothing to harvest. You must cultivate the ground, plant the seeds, water the fields, and then and only then will you be able to harvest the crops. This idea led me to ask myself, what were the natural laws of strength and conditioning? What are the things that you couldn't argue? What are the things you have to do be able to do your job at a highly effective rate? What was easily observable? What is universal from place to place that is measurable and clearly could be defined? I set out on a mission to get into every weight room I could and observe every training session possible. I wanted to discover what were the things you could not argue or debate. I personally feel debating about the science and the art of performance has become cliche and honestly, it doesn't inspire action. The more I traveled, the more I realized the reality of creating a highly effective training system came from defining your process. And defining your process requires you to take action. In my experience, action is not inspired by someone stating the right answers to you. I am inspired to act by someone asking me the right questions. This is exactly what the process planning framework is. A series of questions designed to challenge you to find the right answers for your unique situations. The first 4 procedures of process planning focus on creating deliberate action. Deliberate action can be defined by asking yourself, am I doing the right things? Am I in fact placing those I work with on a path towards success? Only you can answer that. The second half of procedures focus on creating deliberate practice. And deliberate practice can be defined by asking yourself, am I focused on the right things? Ask yourself, am I working on the right things that will enable me to create desirable outcomes for those I work with and those I work for? Not every single answer can be found from an outside source. And I believe we would all be better coaches if we started to ask ourselves the hard questions about what we were doing on a daily basis. Do I have an organized plan? Do I have a clearly defined product? Do I have a well-planned progression for that product? Am I able to execute that plan efficiently and effectively? Do I have a message that people respond to? Do I have a deliberately developed culture? Am I consistent day in and day out? And am I getting the results that I am planning for? This framework has allowed me to find value in every single coach in every single program I have come across for the last 6 years. How do I know it works? Well, you wouldn't be on this website or watching this video if process planning didn't work. I wouldn't have been able to build the skill set required to start my own business. The process planning framework has helped me become the coach and man I am today because I stopped focusing on what made me different and started focusing on the things that really matter, being able to impact and change lives. By knowing how to deliberately act and then practice those actions daily, I am able to create a training system that works for me and not the other way around. Now it is time that I help you do the same. Learn how to communicate, demonstrate, and evaluate your real value in your own unique situation. I'm creating a service for every stage a performance professional goes through. It doesn't matter if you're a volunteer intern or a master strength coach. I have a service that will help you define your process. So just click the button below and let's take the next step. I too have been in a situation where I have felt the need to posture and prove how smart I was when I really felt lost, confused, unconfident, and unorganized. It is time for that cycle to end. Achieve your goals and become the respected professional you deserve to be. It just comes down to how you want to invest in yourself. You can invest time or invest money. There's a way that we can work together and I can help you get to the place you want to be. Click the button below and let's get started. If you've ever wondered what my logo means, it's time for you to find out. Aut viam inveniam aut faciem means I will either find a way or I will make one. This phrase was said by Hannibal when he was told that it was impossible to cross the Alps by elephant. This single phrase eliminates excuses as it challenges you to take action. There's a way to find a solution to the issues you face on a daily basis, and if you can't find one, let's work together and make one. Start now by clicking the button below, and let's start defining your process today. Thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to working together to make this profession a better place for everyone.